Sir, I need you to calm down.
Take a step back, you please. You people, you think you can just walk in here? This is my house. Still, they haven't taken it all yet.
We're here to de-escalate, not to argue.
I told that judge.
The fluorescent hum of the courtroom lights barely pierced the simmering tension. It was a Tuesday afternoon, October 17th, 2023, in Department 3C of the Municipal Court, a setting usually defined by its sterile order. But on this day, order would shatter. A man, identified as Mr. Thomas Harrison, a local homeowner embroiled in a bitter property dispute, stood before the bench. His face, usually etched with a kind of simmering resentment, was now contorted into a mask of pure, unadulterated fury. His history, a trail of contentious legal skirmishes and documented outbursts, was long and well known to the court staff. 11 complaints, ranging from verbal harassment of city planning officials to threats against HOA board members, peppered his record. 11. This was not an isolated incident. It was the culmination of a pattern. Across from him, elevated and poised, sat Judge Anya Sharma, a woman whose career was a testament to dedication and intellect. Judge Sharma had ascended through the ranks of a justice system often resistant to change. She was a beacon of impartiality, a jurist whose credentials spoke volumes. Yet, in that moment, she was being subjected to an indignity that no public servant, regardless of their role, should ever endure. The contrast was stark. A respected legal mind treated with contempt, her authority brazenly challenged by a man whose rage overshadowed all reason. Before we continue dissecting the layers of this explosive encounter and the seismic implications it had for the justice system, where are you watching from? Drop a comment below. Let us know your city or country. Your engagement fuels this crucial conversation. The city of Metropolis, a sprawling urban tapestry often bathed in the golden hues of a late autumn sun, was experiencing an uncharacteristic chill that October day. A biting wind whipped through the downtown canyons, rattling the windows of the municipal courthouse. Inside, however, the atmosphere was far more oppressive than the crisp air outside. The air in Department 3C was thick with unspoken grievances, a heavy silence punctuated only by the rustle of legal papers and the occasional call from the gallery. Judge Anya Sharma was not just a judge. She was a Judge Anya Sharma. Her journey to the bench was a narrative of relentless pursuit of justice. Born to immigrant parents who instilled in her profound value of education, she excelled from an early age. A scholarship student, she graduated summa cum laude from Columbia University, then earned her Juris Doctor from Yale Law School, where she edited the prestigious Yale Law Journal. Her early career saw her championing civil rights cases, dedicating years to public defense, and later serving with distinction as a federal prosecutor. She was known for her meticulous attention to detail, her unwavering commitment to due process, and a judicial temperament that could calm the most turbulent courtroom. Her appointment to the municipal court bench 5 years prior was heralded as a triumph for diversity and merit, a recognition that she had not merely been given her position, but had profoundly earned it through decades of rigorous, principled work. She had presided over thousands of cases, from complex corporate litigation to emotionally charged family disputes, always with calm demeanor and an unflinching adherence to the law. Mr. Thomas Harrison, on the other hand, had a different kind of reputation. His life was marked by a series of escalating confrontations, a man perpetually convinced he was being wronged, often by the very institutions designed to govern civil society. His complaint history, as meticulously documented by various municipal departments, painted a vivid picture. In 2018, during a zoning dispute over an extension he planned for his property, Harrison launched into a profanity-laced tirade against the city planner, threatening to make his life a living hell. The incident resulted in a restraining order and a formal warning from the city attorney's office. 2 years later, in 2020, he initiated a protracted and vitriolic legal battle against his homeowners association, accusing them of embezzling funds and deliberately targeting him with spurious fines. During a particularly heated HOA meeting, witnesses reported Harrison physically blocking the exit, trapping board members, and shouting accusations until police were called. In 2022, he filed a frivolous lawsuit against a local landscaping company, alleging sabotage of his prize-winning roses. A case quickly dismissed, but not before Harrison sent threatening letters to the company owner's home. The pattern was clear. When Mr. Harrison felt aggrieved, his response was not just anger, but a volatile, often threatening, and deeply personal attack on the individuals he perceived as his adversaries, regardless of their position or authority. These were not mere disagreements. These were escalations, each one a precursor to the next. The case that brought Mr. Harrison before Judge Sharma on that fateful Tuesday was a complex and convoluted property line dispute, entangled with allegations of easement violations and a long-standing feud with his neighbor. From the outset, Harrison had viewed the proceedings through a lens of deep-seated suspicion. Convinced the system was rigged against him, he had repeatedly accused the court bias, filed numerous motions for recusal against Judge Sharma based on flimsy pretexts, and disrupted previous hearings with outbursts. This underlying bias call, his unshakable conviction that the system itself was inherently prejudiced against him, was the tinderbox. On the morning of October 17th, Judge Sharma was presiding over a routine motion hearing in the Harrison versus Peterson property dispute. Her activity was, as always, mundane and legitimate. She listened intently as attorneys presented their arguments, occasionally interjecting with incisive questions to clarify points of law or fact. She was the embodiment of judicial decorum, her focus solely on the intricate legal technicalities before her. The court was in session, the wheels of justice turning as they had for centuries, a testament to the rule of law. But for Mr. Harrison, reason had long since departed. As Judge Sharma delivered her ruling on a crucial evidentiary motion, a ruling that did not favor his position, his composure, already fragile, snapped. He stood abruptly, ignoring his attorney's frantic whispered pleas to sit down. Should officers, or in this case, court officials, be empowered to verify the emotional state and potential for violence of individuals before they're allowed to address the court, especially when a history of aggression is known? Let us know what you think in the comments. The confrontation that followed was rapid fire, a horrifying spectacle unfolding in real time. Your Honor, with all due respect, this is a travesty. Harrison's voice, initially strained, quickly rose to a shout, echoing off the polished wood panels. Judge Sharma, maintaining her calm, stated, "Mr. Harrison, you are out of order. Please take your seat, or I will hold you in contempt." Contempt? You're in contempt of justice. This court is a joke. Your bias, Your Honor, clearly biased against me, he spat, pointing a trembling finger at the judge. Mr. Harrison, I will not tolerate this disrespect. You have made your arguments. The court has ruled. If you wish to appeal, that is your right. But you will not disrupt these proceedings. Appeal? What's the point? You're all in on it. This whole system is designed to screw over people like me. You think you're above it all, sitting up there in your fancy robes, but you're just another pawn. His voice was now a guttural roar, filled with venom. Mr. Harrison, one more word and you will be removed. One more word. How about this? You haven't heard the last of this judge. You think you can just railroad me? I'll make you regret the day you ever crossed Thomas Harrison. I know where you live. I know what car you drive. You'll pay for this. You'll all pay. A gasp rippled through the gallery. The air crackled with a chilling silence, broken only by Harrison's ragged breathing. Witnesses froze, their faces a mixture of shock and fear. The explicit threat, delivered with such raw fury, was unmistakable. Judge Sharma, though visibly shaken, maintained her composure, her eyes fixed on Harrison. Within seconds, two bailiffs, seasoned court security officers, sprang into action. They moved swiftly, converging on Harrison, who was still trembling with rage. Mr. Harrison, you are under arrest, one bailiff announced, his voice firm. Harrison struggled, shouting obscenities, but the officers, trained for such volatile situations, quickly subdued him. He was cuffed, his protest muffled as he was forcibly escorted from the courtroom. He was removed not just for the day, but indefinitely, his access to the court revoked. The incident had lasted mere minutes, but its impact would reverberate for years. The judicial sanctity had been violated, a line crossed that few could have ever imagined. The immediate resolution was swift and decisive. Thomas Harrison was not merely removed from the courtroom. He was arrested on the spot, charged with obstruction of justice, criminal threats, and contempt of court. The serenity of the courthouse was shattered, replaced by the urgent murmur of law enforcement and the hushed whispers of shocked onlookers. Judge Sharma, after a brief recess to compose herself and confer with the court's administrative judge, resumed the day's docket with remarkable fortitude, a testament to her resilience. Yet, the emotional toll was undeniable. Should officers or any public officials, who are explicitly threatened in the line of duty, have the right to automatic termination of the offender's access to public services or institutions, or even automatic long-term incarceration? What are the boundaries? Share your thoughts. The incident was captured on the court's official recording system and, more critically, on the cell phones of several attendees in the gallery. Within hours, the footage exploded across social media. Clips of Harrison's furious outbursts and explicit threats went viral, racking up millions of views across Twitter, TikTok, and YouTube. The hashtags #JusticeForJudgeSharma and #CourtroomThreats trended nationally. News outlets picked up the story with unprecedented speed, broadcasting the raw footage across primetime television and dominating online headlines. The public reaction was a firestorm of outrage, condemnation for Harrison's actions, and widespread support for Judge Sharma. However, beneath the surface of this public outcry, a different narrative was quietly unfolding. Despite his egregious actions, Mr. Harrison, even from his jail cell, began to assert his own claims of systemic injustice. His legal team, quickly assembled, filed a massive lawsuit against the city of Metropolis, the county judicial system, and several individual court officials, including the chief clerk of courts. The lawsuit, a sprawling 120-page document, alleged a pattern of deliberate procedural violations, racial bias within the municipal court system that disproportionately affected homeowners in Harrison's historically black neighborhood, and profound denial of due process in his original property dispute. Harrison's lawyers argued that his outburst, while inexcusable, was a direct, desperate reaction a man pushed to his breaking point by a system that had systematically ignored his pleas and undermined his rights over many years. They claimed that the court's handling of his property case was a textbook example of institutional prejudice, leading to financial ruin and emotional distress that ultimately provoked his uncharacteristic, albeit illegal, outburst. The specific claims included violations of the 14th Amendment's equal protection and due process clauses, as well as state-level civil rights statutes. The lawsuit, initially dismissed by many as a cynical attempt to deflect from Harrison's criminal behavior, gained unexpected traction as discovery proceeded. Depositions uncovered a troubling pattern of internal memos suggesting an expedited process for certain property disputes, and a disproportionate number of adverse rulings against residents from Harrison's district. The city, facing mounting public pressure and the potential for a protracted, embarrassing legal battle that would expose deep-seated systemic flaws, opted for mediation. After intense negotiations, a settlement was reached. Mr. Harrison was awarded $6 million by the city of Metropolis. It was one of the largest settlements in history for a case involving a citizen's volatile reaction to perceived systemic injustice, an astonishing sum that underscored the severity of the institutional failures that had been brought to light. The settlement was a stark acknowledgement that while Harrison's actions were wrong, the system's culpability ran far deeper. The fallout was immediate and severe. While Mr. Harrison faced criminal charges for his threats, the institutional accountability he demanded began to materialize. On December 12, 2023, just weeks after the settlement was finalized, Eleanor Vance, the long-serving chief clerk of courts for the municipal judicial system, was terminated. Her termination letter, later leaked to press, stated, "Your continued employment is incompatible with the ethical and operational standards required of a public servant in a position of such critical trust and oversight." The systemic failures uncovered during the Harrison litigation, particularly regarding the equitable application of procedural rules and a consistent review of grievance protocols, demonstrate a profound dereliction of duty under your stewardship. This decision is effective immediately, and you will be stripped of all certifications and privileges associated with your former office. The termination of a high-ranking court official was a rare event, signaling that the system, however reluctantly, was beginning to turn its gaze inward. Mr. Harrison's testimony, delivered in a powerful, albeit often raw, statement during his deposition for the civil suit, became a crucial component of the case that ultimately led to the historic settlement. He spoke not to justify his actions, but to explain the profound, suffocating sense of injustice that had driven him to that breaking point. His voice, usually edged with anger, was here tinged with a weary desperation. I know what I did was wrong. I shouldn't have said those things to Judge Sharma, and I regret scaring her. No one deserves that. But you have to really understand what it feels like to be systematically ignored, to have your property, your very home, threatened by a system that just doesn't care. For years, I tried to follow the rules, to argue my case, to present my evidence. And every single time, it felt like I was speaking into a void. It was like they had decided my fate before I even walked into the courtroom. The documents, the evidence I presented, it was all dismissed, brushed aside, because I didn't fit their narrative. My neighborhood, my people, we've been fighting this for generations. And when you see your life, your home, slipping away because of biased procedures, because of judges who don't even bother to read the filings, because of clerks who lose your documents, you feel like you're screaming into the wind, and eventually you just break. If this can happen to me, a homeowner fighting for his property, a man who believed in the law, what hope does anyone have when the very institutions meant to protect us are the ones grinding us down? His testimony, a blend of contrition for his actions and fierce indictment of the system, resonated deeply, exposing the raw nerve of institutional apathy that often precedes an explosive reaction. Should an incident like Mr. Harrison's outburst, even with its underlying systemic causation, automatically trigger a federal investigation into the broader practices of the municipal court system involved? Tell us your opinion below. Following the settlement and the high-profile termination of the chief clerk of courts, an independent review panel was convened to investigate the systemic failures within the Metropolis Municipal Court. Their findings were damning. The panel concluded that the court administration suffered from a severe lack of oversight, particularly in the handling of property disputes involving residents from historically marginalized communities. They identified several key issues: inadequate training for court clerks on equitable procedural application, leading to disproportionate errors and delays for certain litigants, a lack of transparency in case assignment and review processes, fostering an environment ripe for implicit bias, insufficient grievance procedures for citizens who felt their cases were being mishandled, and a general culture of bureaucratic indifference that allowed systemic flaws to persist unaddressed. The report highlighted that while no single individual was found to have explicitly discriminated against Harrison, the confluence of these systemic deficiencies created an environment where due process could be and often was subtly undermined for specific demographics. In response to these findings, the Metropolis Judicial Council announced a sweeping series of reforms. These included mandatory annual training for all court staff on implicit bias and equitable procedural application, the establishment of an independent ombudsman's office to handle citizen grievances and conduct external reviews, and a complete overhaul of the case management system to ensure greater transparency and accountability in document processing and case assignment. Furthermore, new protocols were introduced for identifying and addressing litigants with a history of volatile behavior, aiming to de-escalate tensions and provide avenues for resolution before they reach a breaking point. The saga of Mr. Thomas Harrison and Judge Anya Sharma is more than just a headline-grabbing confrontation. It is a stark, uncomfortable mirror reflecting the dangerous interplay between individual desperation and systemic indifference. It underscores a fundamental truth. When institutional bias, whether explicit or implicit, is allowed to fester, it can override evidence, undermine due process, and push ordinary citizens to extraordinary, often unlawful, extremes. Harrison's rage, while inexcusable in its expression, was born from a deep well of perceived injustice, a feeling validated by a $6 million settlement that effectively acknowledged the very systemic failures he railed against. The consequences were profound. Judge Sharma endured a traumatic personal and professional experience. Mr. Harrison, despite his legal victory, remains consumed by a rage that speaks to the unresolved nature of his sense of injustice. The city paid a staggering sum, not just for a threat, but for years of neglect and systemic failures. And a high-ranking court official lost her career. But the most significant consequence was the forced reckoning within the judicial system itself, a painful but necessary step towards accountability. The challenge now is not just to punish individual acts of aggression, but to dismantle the systemic conditions that breed such desperation. What changes now? Will the reforms announced truly address the root causes of bias and inequity within our courts, or are they mere window dressing? We need to advocate for independent oversight bodies for all municipal court systems, with real power to investigate and sanction systemic negligence. We need mandatory, ongoing, and comprehensive anti-bias training for every single person who touches a legal file, from clerks to judges. And we need accessible, transparent grievance procedures that don't require viral video or a multi-million-dollar lawsuit to be heard. This story is not just about Mr. Harrison or Judge Sharma. It's about the integrity of our justice system. It's about all of us and the kind of society we demand. We're not stopping our fight for justice and accountability. If you believe in this mission, subscribe to our channel, share this video, and join the conversation in the comments below. Your voice is crucial in holding power accountable.